From a operator perspective, it's really important that we understand the needs of a potential resident and current resident. You have Class A buildings, which most oftentimes will display, showcase, or utilize the most current technology as you set your capital stack and build out your platform and your community.
It doesn't matter what technology or innovation you have if customers don't know you have it. And so one of the things I would say is really look at your digital marketing and make sure you're touting your technology.
Today's episode is sponsored by our social media partner, Envida. For years, they've helped us and many other multifamily brands amplify our presence on Instagram and Facebook. Whether you need a strategy to tell your apartment story through compelling visuals or want to elevate your community's digital marketing, Envida has you covered. Their customized ROI-focused campaigns turn leads into leases, making marketing and social media management easier than ever. To learn more about their comprehensive social media and digital marketing services, head over to www.envida.com. That's envida.com. We want to thank our next sponsor, Benefit Commerce Group. Struggling to get the most out of your employee benefits? Benefit Commerce Group and Alera Group can help. As a leader in employee benefits and insurance solutions, they offer tailored approaches and expert guidance to optimize your benefits management. Find out more about their services at benefitcommerce.aleragroup.com. Thank you again to Benefit Commerce Group for sponsoring this episode of Multifamily Forward. I think it's fitting. We have Cox Communications, the Senior Vice President, Vickie Rodgers, on with us, and fitting on two levels, John. I wanted to make sure we said both. One, this is the first time we are doing this virtual with our special guest.
Yes.
Again, Cox Communications, just moving forward with tech solutions. And we just recently had the AMA Cox Communications Tributes Awards just this last week, which Cox has been a sponsor for 32 years.
Amazing.
32 years. So, Vickie, such a pleasure to have you, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And we know that you're on the East Coast. We kind of pushed you a little too late in the day, but we still want to make sure you have that energy, which I know you do.
Oh no, we're good. We're good,
All
right?
right.
We
Well,
only
great.
work half time. Any 12 hours we want, so I'm still good.
There you go. That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, Vickie, tell us a little bit about yourself first before we dive into some of these questions. So, of course, Senior VP with Cox Communications. Give us a brief little history on your career path.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry 40 years now. I used to try to make that number sound bigger. Now I kind of make it sound smaller.
Yeah.
When I started out, we were doing dialers right after divestiture. I saw the portability of 800 numbers. I saw MPLS, frame relay, all the emerging technologies and how it changed the industry and how it changed businesses overall.
That's great. That's great. And, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention how large of a partner you are to Mark Taylor Residential, especially over the years, helping us grow along with growing with you, of course. So we just wanted to say thank you again for that partnership, too.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you. You guys were actually one of the first places we launched 1 gig capabilities.
2014 San Travicia, South Scottsdale.
So you guys have always been great about seeing where things were going to go and partnering on the front end of emerging tech, which is really helpful for your customers.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you again. So the Cox Communications name is very widely known. I don't think most know that it's a family name, though. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's a 4th generation privately held company.
Unbelievable. That's great. And not everyone may know how deeply involved and as far as integration that Cox is with the multifamily sector, with the multifamily industry. Tell us how you have partnered up or created partnerships like the one we have, Mark Taylor and Cox Communications.
Well, if you think about it in multifamily, it's kind of an intersection between commercial buildings and then residences, right? And so there's specialized needs that you have in multifamily that you don't have in any other segment. And so we created a team that could both look on the front end strategy side of that to understand what are the consumer needs in those kind of properties and how does that drive apartment choice. So we have a strategy team. We also said, you know what, we need to operationally be able to enable this. So we have a separate operational enablement team and then a sales team. And our sales team are more like trusted advisors. They truly need to be subject matter experts, both on the multifamily side as well as technology, to understand, depending on what the goals are of our customers, how to best leverage that for the customer base and help them reach their goals of, optimize occupancy, rents, and net operating income.
That's great, John. You of course, you just mentioned San Travisia the first time that we launched one gig with Cox Communications. How important is a relationship like this, a partnership like this, especially in the multifamily sector for developers and ownership groups?
I mean, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years since we did that event, launching the first gigaclass community at San Travisia in South Scottsdale. Amazing 10 years ago, Vickie. But it also supports the narrative of you have to future-proof your communities to support the growth of technology and what's coming ahead tomorrow. So now I think we almost take it for granted that you have up to 1 gig speeds at certain communities. So I'll just say thank you to Cox Communications and your leadership in that department, because I'm certain that we wouldn't have supported that investment and that growth at that time without your expertise and advisement in terms of what lies ahead in terms of technology. So kudos to you. I think, from a operator perspective, it's really important that we understand the needs of a potential resident and current resident. So I really break it into 2 buckets, and I think about it from an attraction perspective and a retention perspective. Mm-hmm. So when you have Class A buildings, which most oftentimes will display, showcase, or utilize the most current technology as you set your capital stack and build out your platform and your community. So I think it's twofold. It's making sure that you have the right tech in place, and then ensuring that it's functional and that it really benefits the user or consumer. And I think if you think about it from that perspective, attraction and retention, it helps you kind of correlate what's necessary to support that future growth and future technology demands of the renter.
True. You both mentioned innovation, so let's go down that path if you guys don't mind. So I'm gonna pose this to you first, Vickie, if you don't mind, please. So innovation, huge piece of the technology growth, especially within the multifamily space, right? Innovate for today for a better tomorrow. Tell us some of the innovations that you see happening within your space, but it's specifically to Cox Communications.
Got it. Yeah. One thing I would say too, from what John was saying on that whole attracting residents, it doesn't matter what technology innovation you have if customers don't know you have it. And so one of the things I would say is really look at your digital marketing and make sure you're touting your technology, because what we found is we did quite a bit of research to see how people react to different ads. And if they look at 2 similarly situated apartment buildings with all the same amenities, but one highlights the technology piece and all those pieces and the other does not, many times they'll go see one and not the other. And so, it's one thing to invest and have things deployed, but make sure it's part of your digital advertising and you have that as part of that resident attraction. It's funny. I was thinking back to the 1 gig, and I've told you how long I've been in the industry. I remember selling 1 gig circuits into SunTrust Bank for all their check processing. And, one time a 1 gig circuit was $10,000 a month. And now in your home, 10 years ago, we brought 1 gig to each home, right? Now, 99% of our footprint, you can get 2 gig, right? And so it's amazing where things have really gone. But what I would say is a few things to think about. One, always on data technology is key. People want to have no friction and no resistance, and they always want to be on, right? And so obviously you think about Mark Taylor and kind of the bulk always on data strategy. That's worked very well, right? Because people like to walk in. Secondly, I would say more and more, we've done a lot of research that says, how do you optimize rents? And the always on data solutions or frictionless journey for move-in was key. But secondly, automation solutions, so property IoT. So the ability that if I'm somewhere and my brother comes into town and I want to let him into an apartment, that I can unlock the doors from afar and let him in, or turn the thermostat down so that by the time I get home, especially in Arizona, when it gets 120 degrees, I'm not burning up, but yet I don't feel like I'm, wasting energy, et cetera. What we found in the consumer research was, especially with millennials, that they're willing to pay 8 to 10% more in rents because of the smart technology. Now, Some of that may have changed a bit, and now that the economy's getting a little rougher, and I think people are feeling more pressured overall. But certainly, if you're comparing one to the other, and one has smart technology and the other doesn't, it's going to attract one to the smart technology apartment. And so that's becoming more and more important. The other thing is, if you think about how much time people work out of their homes now, because, pre-COVID, you didn't see a lot of that.
True.
But still on average, I think it's about 40% of people work from their home 2 to 3 days a week. Failover technology, it has to always be up, right? And so having some kind of failover capability, and we're about to launch here pretty soon, an always-on solution, so that if you have something that interrupts, you've got a backup, is really key, because homes are more like offices were 20 years ago, right? Used to, home was a, as need service. Now it's a critical service, right? Because people are working from home so often, or they're also schooling from home.
It's absolutely a necessity nowadays, right?
Absolutely. And people's patience isn't the same, right? The bar's been raised on what they expect.
Yeah, 100% agree. John, any additional thoughts you would throw in there?
No, I'm aligned with Vickie and how she described it. I think I'd expand it beyond millennials. I think the pandemic really accelerated the ease of use for technology, because people were forced to use it regardless of demographics. So, my mom's using smart home today as an example. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head from a high-speed internet Wi-Fi perspective. It's really become that fourth utility behind water, power, gas. And, I think the next phase of that is smart home. I think smart home will just kind of move into it's a must-have or expected. And I think people will start to, look at Class A apartments a bit differently over time, and probably within the next just few years, and say, if I have a physical key, I can't do the things you just mentioned. Brother-in-law's in town, want to access the unit while I'm not there, I'm at work or I'm at the grocery store. They want convenience, and they want to make sure that there's no stop gaps along the way. So I think you're right on with that summary.
I'm gonna throw a little curveball into the mix right now. So we are talking smart home. We're talking about innovating. Of course, the next question I have for you was about at what part in the development stage is it best for Cox Communications to step in and start helping with the planning stages. Let's roll smart home tech right into that same question. So tell us first about your new platform.
Well, with our platform, it's a cloud-based solution. So what would happen is you would come in and put your IoT devices, whether it be a digital door lock, thermostats, lights, etc. When we integrate into the property management system, and so when someone has moved in, they get a download that allows them to get their access, and then they control most of the accesses, other than some parameters that would probably be put on there by the owner. Like if you're in Arizona, maybe you don't let the apartment get hotter than X or colder than Y, et cetera. Right. There's a water leak. Maybe the email goes to both the resident and the property owner, so they can get someone in there to stop the water leakage if there's going to be damage or something like that. With those kind of solutions, honestly, any solution is typically easier when you're building, because you can set everything up the way you want it. But honestly, even when brownfields, those are fairly easy solutions to deploy. If you think about how you roll that out, because the cloud solution doesn't matter. You've got a hub in there, and the IoT devices are not that big of a deal, and it's a dashboard. So that's not difficult. I think there are other things as you start doing development that I know we're going to talk about a little bit later that, you do for in the infrastructure, because it's much more expensive to do after the fact. Right. And so, if you think about IoT solutions, to me, for the property owner, the whole idea is operational efficiency, right? It's harder and harder to keep maintenance staff, harder and harder to keep leasing agents. So the more things that you can automate, so you don't have a maintenance guy going and locking doors or turning thermostats up and down or letting somebody in, the more efficient you are, the more that you can manage the energy and open apartments, the less you're spending per year, et cetera. So I think it's operational efficiency for the owner. I think for the resident, it's that frictionless journey and just it's efficiency and making things easier on them. And for us, it's just one more product and more value add that we put on the broadband, right? So it's like fries with that on top of the broadband.
Yeah, no. So
your tech stack on top of broadband.
Development, construction is never a perfect science, right? There's always going to be some type of curveball, something that comes out of right field that changes the game plan. You have to pivot and be a little bit loose with your planning stages. So talking about the IoT solutions, You mentioned that it's much harder to do it later than it is, of course, during the early stages. So if you were a developer, and I'm going to say this, ask the same question to you, JC, is when is the most perfect time to start having those discussions? Is there a perfect time? I guess is a better question during the development stage.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start doing this during your pre-planning stages. So, if you're thinking about solutions, technology, after you've started construction, there's an issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's pretty obvious. But I think, understanding your potential tech stack and backing into what's needed, I think infrastructure matters most. So connecting with experts like Vickie and her company and team, and ensuring that, you do have fiber close by, fiber to node, whatever the access points are, ensuring that you're setting your community up for success. Because if you're building a Class A product, which is primarily what people build today, I know there's some outliers, but you really have to be thoughtful in terms of that. Because if you don't have the right tech stack upon opening, and marketing, as Vickie mentioned, some people might market it correctly or not, but if you don't have it, that's an issue, right? I mean, they might tour and just not rent. So you probably see leasing conversions go down. I mean, there's a lot of things that, I think back to when it was, think back to bundling broadband and your actual cable. That really isn't the case anymore because everyone wants to, cut the cord was the old term. I don't know when that started and when it ended, but it feels like it's not even talked about anymore. So you really have to be ready for what the consumer wants.
I'm sure Vickie can still hear the sound too. I can still hear the dial-up sound that we used to all have to endure just to connect to the internet. Remember those days?
I do.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. So
Hey, I would add one more to the whole developer piece. When you're doing this technology, you also want the capital planning, right? And so when you're doing capital planning for it, when you do new build capital to add in these emerging tech, it's not really expensive. But if you don't have it as part of your capital planning, you're trying to do it later, it becomes a big deal, especially with investors and other things. So
it's great. Thank you for
adding
that.
Nips at the cash flow aspect if you're not planning correctly with cap.
right.
True. So on the resident experience side, right? High quality connectivity, advanced technologies. We talked about up in the speeds to 2 gigs now. How do these benefit the residents' lifestyle from your point of view?
Well, if you think about the moving process, whether it's a positive process or not a positive, because when you think of the move event, people are either moving usually for good things. Hey, I graduated college. This is my first apartment, et cetera. Or it could be, hey, I've just gone through a divorce. I'm downsizing. Or, hey, I've just lost my spouse and I'm doing X. Either way, it's one of the most stressful experiences out there, equal to almost losing a family member or losing your job. And so very stressful. And so the more that you can make it a frictionless journey for people and take one more thing off their list, it's amazing how much emotional impact you have from that. That's one of the reasons Quick Connect has worked so well for us. And now Mark Taylor has bulk services, so everything's already on and it's there. But in the past, they've had Quick Connect. And what that is you don't have to call the truck or wait on a truck roll. It's already there. You can swipe it and turn it up. And that one little step, it's funny for our SFU builders, we've done some surveys before and after on customer sat scores. And it moves customer sat scores anywhere from 3 to 6%. And if you've tried to move customer sat scores, you realize what a big deal that is. And that seems like such a simple thing. You're just taking one step out of their journey in the move process, but it really matters. And actually, we just did some post research with Quick Connect residents, and 58% of them said their next apartment, they're going to look for a Quick Connect solution so that it's already on and they don't have to worry about calling in or waiting on a truck roll or taking half day off work. And so things like that, just small things that make it a less stressful move event are a really big deal.
Yeah, you just think about the baseline of that service for someone moving. Really, everything springs forward from that connectivity, right? They can't, order DoorDash or do all of these things that they would normally do with Wi-Fi. Throw in some teenagers and they're like, "Hey, where's my Netflix? What's going on?
Right.
Come on, mom and dad." So I'm right there
or
with
gaming,
you. I think,
or online
gaming.
school. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to give you a personal experience because I'm a Cox customer myself, and moving from one house to another house, I have an 11-year-old. the one thing that was most important was, one, I need to have my streaming so I could have coffee in the morning the next day. And of course, my son, right down that line, gaming, Dad. When's that happening? When's the internet getting turned on? So the quick connect, that was fantastic.
Easy.
Just
need A's at school, Benny.
That's all you got to do. A's at school. John, let's, again, talking about the benefit to the residents. I mean, we have 30,000 plus units that we have the privilege of managing here in Phoenix and Las Vegas. Over 50,000 total residents to boot on behalf. Where do you see this benefit that Vickie was just talking about as far as the increased speeds, the ease of quick connect, and having bulk Wi-Fi throughout a property?
Yeah, it's just, Vickie, and I say this often, it's a frictionless experience. So after move-in, you have to have always-on services. So if your Wi-Fi or your internet goes down consistently, that's a frustrating piece of the equation, right? You had it not too long ago with Vinny. I think you played Uno for 10 straight hours.
We did great.
So, it's really, it's the baseline for all things that, people, a lot of people really do most of their things on their apps, their phone. It all ties back to the broadband and the access. So I think it's about that frictionless experience. I think for things in specifically Arizona, as Vickie mentioned, it's 110 degrees. You want to turn that thermostat down 30 minutes before you arrive. You want to save on energy costs. That's not getting any cheaper. You want to let a friend in when they want to access your unit. So I think all of those things tie back to the right technology, and it has to function correctly. So I think if you look forward, I don't know that we've quite gotten there with the IoT stuff. So can you preheat the oven? Can you lower the ice maker?
Yeah, I don't know if I want anyone
things.
turning their oven on before they get home. It's coming.
So
yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity ahead to really help everyday life for residents.
Sure. I love that. That's great. We talk about that 5-star white glove service, and that just rolls right into that piece, right? It's just a part of the whole picture.
Well, I would add another thing that if you look down the fairway ahead and just say, okay, what else can we do from an operational perspective to support and help not only our ownership groups but also our residents after they move in? If you think about preventative maintenance, we haven't quite gotten there just yet. A simple example is, if an AC unit runs X amount of hours, we know we should change the filter. Eventually, if it runs too much, right, there's thresholds in terms of what a specific unit should run on a per day perspective, depending on temperature. If it's running 22 of the 24 hours, yes, it's cooling, but does the resident know? We should be in front of that, so we're saving the resident on their electric bill. So they're not calling us 45 days later when they get the bill, like, what the heck's going on?
Happened? Yeah,
and now we're fixing it after. So I think there will be a time where we're actually automating those processes and saying, okay, on this 30-day schedule, we know we're going to do 17 AC units. We're going to check the condensing lines end. And I think there will be a more thoughtful approach to maintenance. It'll be very proactive versus what it is today in terms of reactive.
Great.
Yeah, I would agree. I think more and more, those solutions will help pre-monitor that, but also just ticket logistics. Just the whole maintenance crew idea and having centralized operations versus decentralized, and how do you better manage those logistics? Because that's the biggest complaint I hear now from folks when we do surveys and check is people get most frustrated when they can't get a maintenance person to fix something or they've got an issue there. So logistically getting ahead of that and managing that in such a way that you've got that right balance between not overspending in headcount, but yet getting to it in a reasonable amount of time is so important.
And to add to that, if you think about our centralization platform, our integrated operations network, or ION, really getting to a point where you're identifying, it's one thing to get a maintenance member within your community within 24 or 48 hours, but are they the right expert to handle the situation? So, you might have a brand new tech who doesn't understand plumbing show up and say, oh, I don't know how to fix this. I'm going to have to call in another guy or an actual vendor. And now it's, it goes from 2 days or 1 day to 4 or 5 days. So identifying the right class of expert within that field, plumbing expert at property A on Tuesday, because that's the issue, and aligning your personnel, your labor to ensure that you're taking care of those issues right away. And I think you're absolutely right. The biggest issues we have from a customer perspective is if those work orders aren't complete on time or not done correctly.
Good point. Good point. I have two questions for you. Two questions left for you, Vickie. One, of course, business related. One is going to be fun. Which way you want to go?
Either way, I'm good either way.
I was hoping you were going to say that. So, okay, let's go the business related one. So, thinking about Cox Communications the next 3 to 5 years, where do you envision your evolution moving to? Anything different from where you are now?
Yeah, I think so. So we've already made some moves, but I think you would see us take the next move. So, obviously we're an infrastructure company, right? And having the network infrastructure is really important, and doing that very well is key. But really building that technology stack, so we're adding more and more value around, especially around multifamily, to think, IoT solves these problems. What else, right? Like the ticket logistics. When you think about rents, all these things,
Sure.
what is the ecosystem of business problems that need to be solved for, and how you build that off of one platform and tie it into what's already there to make it more efficient for property owners or for management companies like you guys. And at the same time, make it a better process for the residents overall. And so part of what we've done around that is, we now own our own public and private cloud company, right? That company also does security solutions. So more and more in the multifamily space, security is becoming key. It's funny, some owners don't realize they need it until they get hacked and something's really bad. And then we step in and we look like heroes, right? And so
Sure.
Understanding that component. EV charging is becoming more and more of a thing, right? With more and more of the manufacturers going to electric vehicles, the industry is going to have to figure out, especially in certain states, how do they address that? Some of the research we've done has said that people with electric vehicles are willing to pay $14 more per month to have a charger on site. So how do we partner with communities so that it's not such a capital outlay for you guys, and we're helping support that, because that's also a connected solution, right? More and more of these cars need to have software downloads, and if you don't have the right connectivity, it takes forever versus being able to do your EV charging, download any of your software. Think about it. Your car's a computer now, right? So
Yes.
So we will continue to be looking at partnerships, investment opportunities, and build opportunities to create an ecosystem of value around the connectivity solutions, right? Fixed wireless will probably be something we'll be moving into in certain areas, because that might be a better setup in certain situations. Really holistically looking at the network layer, looking at those next layers of value, and, do we partner, buy, build, et cetera, and what does that look like over time? And so we're mapping out some of that. Would love to get y'all's feedback on some of the things that we're thinking about and what the problems are to be solved. But I think more and more, there's probably a lot of different folks you can get connectivity solutions from. We're wanting to be that plus, right? And so we feel like that's important. And we feel like we need to be experts in the business and understand how to solve business problems beyond just the connectivity piece of it.
JC, I honestly thought that Vickie was maybe going to share one, maybe two things of the next I think she just listed 13. Do we have that big of
I'm not sure you can count that high.
Yeah, thank
13. I'm teasing.
Vickie, thank you. That was fantastic. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we have a running tradition. I'm not sure.
I just want to add
please
one
do.
thing. Sorry.
Please do.
So
Please do.
I think, to Vickie's point, and, you fast forward, and, for us, we're always thinking about a 5-star experience.
Yeah.
So when you think about, we haven't said AI today. I don't think we have.
No.
So the confluence of AI, IoT, I had to say it, Vickie, sorry.
Yep.
AI, IoT, autonomous systems, all of those things start to create a specific, unprecedented, personalized experience. What I mean by that is, I think, if you fast forward to just say 2030, we'll call it an even year. Let's say you're moving into a Mark Taylor community powered by Cox Communications, and perhaps there's a one-page introduction of, it's like, okay, here's a questionnaire. What would you like your temperature set at during certain times of the day? How would you like, specific things in your apartment done? So it becomes that personalized touch using technology. So, I think, we can lean too far in terms of that technology lens, but it really comes back to what's that personal experience. And if you can create that, and you become so, I'll say, distributed with the right technology, that you can do that. And you'll probably have everyone will have a personal AI assistant at that time. So scheduling things, all of those things will run through your connectivity. and it's just going to create a better life, a better experience. So again, it's about experience, not only with the interaction of our staff, our personnel, but how's that technology better their life.
Let me ask you both a question. What grade do you think schools are starting to teach AI? In elementary or middle school? What do you think?
I have no idea, but I can tell you my college juniors are using it a lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully in a legal way. But I read a paper the other day. I was like, wow, this is really good. And he kind of smiled. I'm like, did you use AI? I mean, but hey, it's a tool, right? And, I think about AI. I look at AI two ways. I mean, you think about AI leasing and all that, and it's a great technology, et cetera, to use that with customers. But we can use AI just to become more efficient internally and to deal with customers more quickly, have better data. You were talking about the maintenance piece and getting the right person there first versus the 3-day piece. Mm-hmm. Same thing, right? If we can quickly figure out what's happening and solve the issue up front with AI, it makes a huge difference than if you're bouncing someone 3 or 4 times before they get a resolution. So
I'm going to go with toddlers.
I would say you're going to say elementary school, right?
Yeah. So my 6th grader, Vinny, of course, he ran for student council for his class, for student body. And he had to write his campaign speech first by himself, right? But then the teacher had each individual student who wanted to campaign for student council run it through ChatGPT. And then she had to prove, or the students had to prove, that they weren't just copying and pasting using whatever spit out when you rephrase this for me. But they were allowed to take bits and pieces away from it. So it was pretty amazing. When he first read it to me, I asked him, "Did Mom help you with this?" Probably not the best thing to say to my son, right? But no, they said 6th grade they were starting to learn AI.
It's amazing. I've seen some of the AI avatars where they're using them for training, and it's incredible how fast it learns and how real it becomes in a period of time. There's so many uses for it. It's kind of like the iPhone when it first came out and all the applications. You couldn't have imagined everything you'd do on it in 10 years. I think AI is going to be the same thing. I think it's going to be one of the most pivotal things in business overall. And I think the companies that are smart and embrace it early and go deep are going to be the ones that are going to be the most successful.
Just don't let your proprietary information out there, right?
Right.
That's the key. Yeah. Vickie, so we have a tradition at the end of every episode. We get to talk about what we're grateful for today. So I'm not sure if you prepared for that. If you would like for me to move over to Mr. John Carlson here first, and then I can swing back to you, or are you ready for me?
I know what I'm grateful for.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to hear. Vickie, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for my kids, but really my grandkids. I have 2 of the cutest granddaughters in the world. They're 4 and 6. And just talking to them and how happy and smart and lively they are just brightens my day no matter what's happened during the day. So my 2 grandkids would be what I'm most grateful for.
And keep spoiling them, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they riding horses yet?
They actually are a little bit. So when they came in last time, we took them over and they went to the barn and did a riding lesson. So they enjoyed it. That's a very expensive hobby to get kids into, but yeah, they enjoy it.
I have a personal question for you on top of that. What do you like better? And you have to be honest, your horse or your dog?
Oh.
Well, the dog is my husband's. I bought it for him for his birthday, and it really is his dog. Like, it's amazing how connected he is with the dog. I like the dog too, but I like the horse better.
Okay. I knew you were going to say that.
He set you up for that one, didn't he?
I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
John?
I'm always thankful for, talk a lot about relationships, connections, all of those things, but I'm really grateful for the long-time partnerships. So, vendors that have seen different cycles, partners, people. So what I love about Cox Communications is it is privately owned, and you guys have seen decades of changes, and you've helped kind of shape technology across the country and more. So I appreciate that about you guys. And you've always been very gracious with us. We're not a big fish across the country. But we've always had a voice with your team, and I appreciate that about your executive team, you and others. So I love working with Marnie here in town, and look forward to many successful years ahead.
Absolutely. You're kind of like me. I really, really appreciate and have gratitude for long-term relationships and partners that you know how they're going to react to things, and they're going to have a balanced approach, right? And you get to know that over the years about people. Some do and some don't. So
Sure.
I normally try and have something a little bit different from what John is saying, but I have to chime in. I have to add on top of that gratefulness as far as the partnership between Cox Communications and Mark Taylor Residential. My team, we are responsible for underwriting a lot of the deals that come about throughout the Phoenix MSA. And when we are able to talk with a future client, potential client, and start digging into the nitty gritty, and we get into the benefit that we have with our partnership with you. It is one of the easiest conversations to have, and when you make my life easier, I'm smiling constantly. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
thank you, guys.
Well, again, Multifamily Forward wanted to say thank you to Vickie Rodgers, Senior VP from Cox Communications. A lot of information that she provided us. Let's continue on down that path, bring some questions to us as well. Vickie, John Carlson, Adam Greco, Multifamily Forward, presented by Mark Taylor Residential. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Vickie.
Thanks, guys.